Hello everyone. We are with the next group of questions based on jurisprudence. The first question. What is the Marxist perspective on law? Marxist theory sees law as an instrument of the ruling class to maintain economic structures. What is Rawls' difference principle? Inequalities are justified only if they benefit the least well-off. What does Marxist legal theory advocate? It calls for radical legal transformation to achieve economic equality. How does Rawls' theory of justice relate to law? It argues that laws should promote fairness and benefit the least advantaged. How does utilitarianism influence socio-economic law? It supports laws that maximize social welfare and economic benefits. What is the criticism of utilitarian legal theory? It may justify policies that benefit the majority at the expense of minorities. What does critical legal studies or CLS argue about the law? CLS argues that law is not neutral but serves to maintain social and economic power structures. What is the definition of law? Law is a set of rules established and enforced by a governing authority to regulate behavior within a society. Define the rule of law. The rule of law means that all government actions must align with the established laws applied uniformly to all. What are the main types of justice? Criminal justice, civil justice, and social justice. What does criminal justice deal with? It handles crimes, prosecutions, and punishments. What is justice? Justice ensures fairness, equality, and a moral or legal order in society. What are the main types of justice? Distributive justice or fair allocation of resources. Retributive justice, that is punishment for wrongdoing, and a procedural justice, that is fair legal processes. What is social justice? Social justice aims to create a fair and equitable society by addressing systemic inequalities. How does social justice differ from traditional justice? Traditional justice focuses on individual fairness, while social justice seeks to correct societal inequalities. How does social justice promote economic and social equity? By ensuring equal access to resources like healthcare, education, and employment. What does civil justice involve? It resolves disputes between individuals or entities over rights, contracts, or property. What are the key steps in the judicial process? Investigation, prosecution, trial, and a judgment or sentencing. What happens during the investigation and prosecution phase? Crimes or disputes are investigated and charges or lawsuits are filed. What is the purpose of law? The purpose of law is to maintain social order, resolve disputes, protect individual rights, and ensure justice. How does natural law contribute to human rights discussions? It provides a framework for arguing that rights are inevitable and derived from a universal moral order. Which document reflects natural law principles in human rights? The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. What was the main issue in Golkanath versus State of Punjab, 1967? Whether Parliament had the power to amend fundamental rights under Article 368. What principle was established in Golkanath versus State of Punjab case? The Supreme Court ruled that Parliament could not amend fundamental rights, treating them as immutable. What was the significance of the Keshavananda Bharati case 1973? The Keshavananda Bharati case 1973 established the basic structure doctrine, ruling that Parliament could amend the Constitution but did not alter its basic structure. What was the ruling in Ranveer Singh versus Union of India 1982 case? In a Ranveer Singh versus Union of India 1982 case, the court held that equal pay for equal work is a constitutional principle under Article 14 and 16, though not explicitly enforceable as a fundamental right. How does natural law influence constitutional law? It underpins fundamental rights and argues that certain rights cannot be violated even by majority rule. How is compliance with the law ensured? Compliance is ensured through institutions like the police, courts, and legislatures. What institutions enforce legal norms? Police, courts, and correctional systems. What is the meaning of source of law? Sources of law refers to the origins or authorities from which laws derive their force, validity, and recognition. How does CLS align with the socio-economic approach? Both their perspectives emphasize legal reforms that promote social justice. What is the major goal of the socio-economic legal approach? To create a more just and equitable society by addressing economic disparities. Why does the socio-economic approach challenge traditional legal formalism? It believes that legal rules must serve broader social and economic purposes. What is the core idea of contractarian theories of law? Laws and political authority originate from a social contract agreed upon by individuals for mutual benefit and order. What is the role of consent in contractarian theories? The legitimacy of a government or legal system arises from the consent of the governed. How did Thomas Hobbes describe the state of nature? Thomas Hobbes describes the state of nature as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short, leading people to form a social contract for protection. What is the relationship between justice and social justice? Justice focuses on individual fairness, while social justice seeks fairness on a societal scale. How do legal frameworks support social justice? Through affirmative action, anti-discrimination laws, and policies for poverty alleviation. Give an example of a landmark case in India that promotes social justice. Keshavananda Bharati case upheld the constitutional goal of justice and social equality. What role do courts play in ensuring social justice? Courts interpret laws in ways that promote fairness and equality, often through judicial activism. Why is justice essential in a legal system? It ensures fairness, protects rights, and maintains social stability. What takes place during a trial? Evidence is presented, witnesses testify, and legal arguments are made before the judgment is delivered. What does judgment and sentencing involve? Courts impose penalties, compensations, or injunctions based on cases. What is access to justice? The ability of individuals to seek legal redress without barriers. What is legal aid? Free or low-cost legal services for those who cannot afford a representation. Which source of law is considered the most authoritative in civil law systems? Legislation is the most authoritative source of law in civil law systems. How does political science view human rights and justice? Political science examines how laws protect or violate human rights and contribute to social justice. What is the concept of separation of powers? It provides government functions into legislative, executive, and judicial branches to prevent power abuse. How does law contribute to political change? Laws can either maintain the status quo or introduce reforms and progressive changes. How are laws influenced by political ideologies? Legislation reflects the views of lawmakers, political parties, and social movements.